YouTube, what's happening with it? What it do, man? Don't forget to bless your boy with the like and the thumbs up. Let me know I'm kicking my stuff, man. This right here, the young homie, he wanted to know what was our standing in our relationship with Inglewood Centinela Park families. What was the neighborhood power rules and Inglewood Centinela Park families relationship like when I was coming up until I kind of like fell back from the game. And I would have to say Centinela Park family. Okay, Centinela Park families, homie. I can recall from like my era, homies. I mean, before I was really NHP, official NHP, I remember getting sweated by some niggas named Chaos and them from Nella Park. And as my time rolled in on being official neighborhood power rule, you know, I started having like relationships with them dudes through the gang tie thing, homie. And I remember they had, a young cat over there named TJ. He was about it. And I remember we having a homeboy, the OG big homeboy LD, that always headquarters over there. And I heard at first it was like a Long Street Power Rule. So he always had a trenched in thing with the Nelly Parks, and he was with the neighborhood power rules as well as formulating that Long Street power rule back in the days. So I can remember, that relationship, you know what I'm saying, with the Nelly Parks, homie. But my take on the Nelly Parks, they was like back in the days, homie, that was like a real active hood, homie. A real active hood, because they were so close to the 60s, homie, on Hyde Park right there. You can deliberately hit one block from they hood and go straight to the light, look across the street, and straight see a whole rolling 60 store, homie. Them niggas was really that close to some 6-0s. And at that time, homie, the gang shit was at a high intensity on this shit, homie. So CPFs always had like riders over there at one point, homie. They had the habits, you know what I'm saying? Family and Peace, Big Habit. They had the habits. They was brothers. They was active in the motherfucking. You had the just going into I can recall dudes and shit. Then you had the big asses, the nuts, hot dog. I remember some OG big homies that gave me a lot of game. I think it was one of the mixed OG big homeboys. I want to say Master Blaster, A-Rat, solid big homie. I in jail with him, laced me through the county jail for a minute. Who else, homie? It probably was a few more names, but then was like the household names, homie. And out of the homegirls and shit that I could really remember, they had a homegirl named Corrupt, Lady Chaos, Pedo, it's a brown skinned homegirl that she been over there for a minute. She a G, Nella B, you know what I'm saying? It's a couple more homegirls over there. A couple homegirls that's like, one homegirl that's Family and Peace that was active over there. But our relationship, I remember when we really kind of like had a time with the Nella Parks was like in the 90s, homie. Because a lot of them dudes, you know what I'm saying, used to come to the turf, to the I.NHPs, and hang out with some of the homies and shit, drink brew, smoke weed, hang out at the park. And at that time, we had a lot in common, homie. We was all arch enemies with the rolling 60s, homie. So we had a whole lot in common, homie. So we used to drink brew, congregate up with certain ones of them at our hood park sometime. and ride out and fuck with them dudes on soldier type activities and shit. And our relationship was pretty fair, homie, for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And we kind of stayed kind of close in contact, like I say, due to them 60s, homie. And sometime when the original Inglewood families would get into it with the rolling 60s and just say the 60s come back for retaliation, Inglewood families might not be no homies out there at that time. But at them times, you can probably cut through the CPFs and you can catch a Nella Park out there, because they was known to be out there flamed up, banged out, and all that shit too. You know what I'm saying? And if you couldn't really catch a Nella Park, sent Nella Park family blood on that strip up High Park, they knew they could fall into the neighborhood power rule and potentially catch something for sure, homie. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my generation, the nuts, the big asses, you know what I'm saying? Hot dog, couple these other names and shit, homie. You know, and my homeboys, you have my homeboy GSD, Big 211, Big Dulo, Lil Bugsy, the list can go on. The homies that collaborated with these dudes and kind of turned dudes on from my generation and turned us on and laced us as, reputable Nella Parks and shit, So I look at some of them dudes as a big homie to me, because they was on the same level as the dudes I was looking up to and respecting and shit like that. But the neighborhood power rules and the Centinela Park families, we always had cool little rapport coming through there, homie. We had riff raffs, we had it like any other hoods that's close to each other. We didn't have little, discrepancies where, led to, couple little squabbles and shit. Uh, Nothing really major, and later on during the years, we kind of had severed our ties for a minute off of misunderstanding and a disagreement, and after a couple years after that, we wind up tightening it back up, lacing it back up, homie, so, bringing it back together for the new generation and shit, man. So, that's our get down with the Inglewood Centinela Park families and the neighborhood power rules, homie. We always had a cool little rapport. You know what I'm saying? We both battled the same enemies at one time. So, shit. That was it. And it was always, Inglewood love, homie. So that's my get down and run down on us in the Nella Parks. Another homie might have another spiel, but that's my spiel, homie, on our relationships, 89 on up, homie, kicking G shit, not ye shit. And we're gonna keep sending content, homie.